Hello, I'm Dr. Rosie Kuhn, but you probably already knew that. Thanks for being here. Who's ever here? David's here. Good day. Yay. I'm so glad you're here, David. Thanks for being here on time. That's great. Not that you're not on time, but that you're here. It makes me really happy. So thank you for being here. Today, I am talking about the intuitive workday. And what I mean by that is, I guess let's talk about the contrast to that or the juxtaposition of that is we're trained that you have certain things that you have to do and you have to be very constructed and controlled, and that you're not actually allowed to think for yourself. You just have to do it the way you've been taught to do it, or the way that the regiment has it be, or the whoever the powers that be are telling you how to do this, and that's how you have to do it. And for those of us who are self-employed or entrepreneurs or developing our own businesses or have more freedom because we're working at home, sometimes it feels like, okay, how am I going to get everything done if I'm on my own? And my experience is that when I'm in alignment with my highest truth, my highest knowing, and my highest good, my highest contribution to the world, then my alignment keeps me in alignment with what's mine to do. Alicia's here. Thanks, Alicia, for being here. It's good to see you. So quite often we're afraid that if we don't toe the line, in a sense, we don't go in the direction of how we're told we should do this, then it's not going to happen. We're not going to be as productive as we can. We're not going to get accomplished what we think we want to get accomplished. And my perspective is that you got to look at it differently. I have a lot of people who go to work with business coaches, and those business coaches are the idea is that there's a way to do it. And if you do it that way, it's going to work. But the thing is that those ways may not be your way. And it quite often, when people tell me about them working with business coaches, this is not all but business coaches, and this isn't all my clients, but quite often there's a conflict between what my client is wanting and what she or he is being told by that coach or whoever they're working with. So for me, it's really important that we listen to our own knowing. And this is the intention of this particular live today, is to really focus on the intention of you can learn to trust yourself. You can learn to trust your own guidance. You can learn to trust your insights and your intuition. You can learn to trust the inspiration that comes to you. So you can learn to trust yourself. And I say it that way, as in you can learn, because so many of us have learned to do it other than that. We've learned to not, that we can't trust ourselves. We can't respect our own knowing. We have to listen to somebody else. So here I am, you're listening to me on YouTube, another person that is an authority in something, and my authority is in you being you, if you will. I trust you. I respect that you have a capacity to live your life in an extremely wonderful, fulfilling way. I trust you that you can do that. And my authority and my experience and the evidence that I've built over, 40 years almost of working with people, and have taught me that you have that ability to create this amazing, extraordinary life. And my job, if you will, is to support and empower you to trust yourself and to respect that you have accumulated an incredible amount of experience in your lifetime, regardless of how old you are, to be able to draw on that experience to create a life that you're wanting. So part of that is the dilemma of, am I listening to myself? Or am I listening? Do I need to listen to somebody else? Like I'm saying, hey, listen to me, tell you that you can listen to yourself. And somebody else might say, no, you can't listen to yourself because you'll screw up or you won't do it right. You have to listen to me. So I want you to get, number one, that the intention of this particular live is to support and empower you to trust you and your intuition and your insights and your inspiration. Um, Part of this work that I do, and have been doing for a very long time, has come from my own personal experiences where I've gotten bogged down in the focus on what I should be doing or how it should be done, and finding that I was not happy, I was not fulfilled, and my life kind of fell apart. And there was this one particular day that I said, okay, I'm going outside. I'm going to go lay on the couch, the little swing couch, and I'm going to stay there until I feel inspired. Now, part of this came from 30 years ago when I started working with the Course in Miracles. And one of the elements of the Course in Miracles, it says there's a rules for decision making. And the whole idea is we create so many judgments. We think so many thoughts that are inaccurate, um, aren't relevant to anything. We just are thinking. We're worrying about the future. That most of what we're thinking doesn't even exist. We just make it up. So all of these things that we're doing on our own, in alignment with mostly fear. So one of the first rules for decision making in this Course in Miracles, rules for decision making, said I make no decisions by myself. It says I can have the kind of day I want. That means I can get done what I want to get done. I can have it be done and with fun and inspiration and creativity. I can be playful. I can have 3 or 4 clients a day. I can structure and say, here's what I want. Here's what I want. This is the kind of day I want. Rule number 1 then is I make no decisions by myself. So in a sense, I can have the kind of day I want, but I have to watch every single judgment, every single thought that tells me I can't, or I won't, or I shouldn't. And as I practiced that over the decades, I became much more conscious of all the times that I said, I'm turning my will over. I make no decisions by myself. That we never do. We're either making a decision by our ego self, which is always fear-based, or we're making a decision, hopefully, by our inspired higher self. So we become in that way. When I said I make no decisions by myself, I became more conscious of how am I making the choices I'm making. And if I'm making choices from fear, if I'm making choices from I should, if I watch myself say, I'm not as good as, those are thoughts that get in the way of me having the kind of day I want. Does that make sense? So, hi, Marge. Nice to see you. Um, so I can have the kind of day I want if I make no decisions by myself. And we think, oh, decisions, that's like, what kind of toothpaste? What should I eat? But it's like all those thoughts that are going through our heads that we're not even aware of, that says, I don't know how to do this. I can't do this. Who am I to think I can do this? So all those thoughts, if we look at them and we go, I don't want to think those thoughts. Those are not helpful. Those are not helpful thoughts. And if you imagine, I'm not saying imagine, actually, I'm saying listen to those thoughts and go, is that a helpful thought? It's like, I should be working harder. Is that a helpful thought? Is that going to make a difference in how you be? Or is it just a kind of the whip on the cat of nine tails, the whipping you, saying you should do it differently, you should do it better, you should be different, you should be. It's like, is that a helpful thought? Really? Ask yourself that. And it's just fascinating to watch and observe how many thoughts you have and say, is that a helpful thought? Is that a helpful thought? Worrying is not helpful. It's not, it's not, worrying is creativity about what could go wrong. And that's good up to a point, but if it's a constant, as in habitual, is it useful? Is it helpful to get you what you want? If you want a happy life and all you do is worry, is that useful? So these are all places where I began to really become more mindful of what are those thoughts that I think, or I feel this angst, like I should be different. My life should be different. I should be having more money. I shouldn't be, and fill in all those blanks. And it's like, wait, stop. That's not working. That's not working. And be quiet. And so that's the moment that I went out to the couch and I said, I'm lying here. I'm not getting up until I'm inspired. And I it's like, how do you know you're inspired? So I sat there and it was like a thought would be like, who are you to sit here for hours doing nothing? You don't deserve this. You didn't earn this. You're not retired. So I had this voices in my head saying those things. So guess what? That's not inspiring. So I kept noticing those thoughts, like, you should get up and do something. You should get up and feed Gracie. You should get up, and all those shoulds kept coming. Like, this is stupid. Those thoughts just kept coming. And then there was a thought, I want to get up and water the plants. It's like it was a different voice, and it was a different sense of quality of being that uplifted me. And it was like, that's inspiring. I was inspired to get up and water the plants. And so I did. It's like, okay, that's step one in living from inspiration and living an intuitive workday, living life that way. And so it was a fascinating experience to do that, but then to use that as my guiding light throughout my day is a big deal. So one of the things that it led me to was the difference between lifestyle choices. Well, it's all lifestyle choices, and choosing the lifestyle that I want, which is more about freedom, fun, and flexibility, than it is about having money, stability, security in terms of what we think of as material wealth and material well-being. My higher self, my relationship with myself says, I don't want to work that hard. And so I'm willing to have the fluidity. I'm willing to listen to that intuitiveness in me that keeps things fun and flexible and fluid, rather than needing to work harder to make more money or to make sure that the projects are done or whatever that is. I've been really, the lifestyle is much more important to me than the money and the material wealth. So those are a couple of things. That's big stuff, but that's the foundation of this conversation today with you, is like, what is it that's important enough to you that you're listening to this live about having a intuitive work day? So if you have any feedback or any thoughts about that, I would love to hear what you have to say. Oh, by the way, I have a propane truck coming for a little visit, so I may have to take a moment of interruption at some point to sign some papers. So I'm just letting you know that might happen. Is I might have to get up and sign some papers. A couple of things that I want to talk about today is there's a thought that there are people that have told me, hey, I need fear to keep me on track. I need fear to keep me motivated. Fear is the motivator for me. And it's like, okay, so for you, this may not, if you need to be motivated by fear, that's good to know. And this whole live 60 minutes may not be something you want to listen to because you feel, in a sense, committed to, hey, this is what works for me, is to be allow myself or to decide that I'm going to be motivated by fear and to keep doing that. It's like, okay. And for me, again, this is about a lifestyle where I really want serenity and peacefulness. I really want a flow of a generous spirit. I want connection with life, not just with, I got to get things done, and I'm scared if I don't that I'll get fired or I won't get a raise or whatever that fear is. I want to be in a state of being where I'm enjoying life. And that means the less fear that I can create in my life, the better. That's my perspective. And if you need to be motivated by fear, this may not be the video that you need to watch. So it's something to look at. Like, what is it that motivates you? And I'm asking you if you can chat in it if you want to chat your response, or later if you're just watching this as a recorded video, in the comments, just what is it that motivates you and wants you to have in how you be in your life, your lifestyle. What motivates you? My sense is if you're watching this, then there's something you're wanting that's different than that fear-based, structure-based, power-based, authority-based, again, fear-based way of being in the world. And this is big work, in a sense that we have to really listen to, who are we in here? And is it necessary to live in fear? Our consensus reality wants us to stay in fear. We've been trained and domesticated because of fear. And is that necessary? You probably have heard me say this for months now. Is that necessary to live in fear? And my response is, no, it's not necessary. And what's the alternative? Well, that's where the paradigm shift comes in. That's where we talk about the ability to shift so that we're seeing the world outside the fear-based, that's essence-based. That's a quality of being that is fulfilling and creative and inspiring, and living that way. And I don't want to prove this to you. I don't want to have to. I think it becomes self-evident as you practice, as I've practiced. I only know this because it became self-evident that this is what is. This works. I can transform. I can transmute my fear, my panic, my desperate angst into something else, because I've done it many times, many, many, many times, over and over again, until I go, okay, I get it. It doesn't mean I don't get scared or panicky or angst again, because it's part of the way that I've been trained, and my cellular memory just automatically goes that way. But I now have more and more control to say, I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to live this way. I don't want to have these thoughts dictate what kind of day I have. I want to be in control of that, in alignment with my higher truth, my higher self, my higher being. And so when I find myself upset about things, and I go, okay, I can't do anything about this, and I'm tired of 40 years of living this way, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to do life that way. So what do I need to shift? How do I need to see this differently? So I want to come back to, again, if you guys have any comments or questions, I'd really be happy to hear what you have to say. But I want to come back to this when we talk about an intuitive day, an intuitive work day. What does that actually mean from my perspective? But I am open to hearing questions or thoughts that you have. David said, fear is hesitating before an action. Once the action is completed, the fear goes. That includes deciding not to take action. That's great. I like that. So, and I actually do this with clients all the time. I was talking to a client today, a caller, Meredith, and Meredith was telling me how afraid she is. She's afraid to go out for a walk in the morning. She's afraid to go kayaking. She's afraid to go for hikes in the woods. She's afraid. She gave me like 15 things she's afraid of. And I said, where are you not afraid? So most people want to focus on, I'm afraid, but I want to get out there and I want to walk and I want to be active in the world. I want to be in nature, but I'm afraid. And so there's this contraction. And so I said, well, where are you not afraid? And she thought about it, but very quickly said, I'm not afraid when I'm working with my clients, who were um, kids in the foster care system in New York City. I'm not afraid here. I'm not afraid here. She gave me a whole bunch of lists of where she's not afraid. But she first initially started out by saying, I'm a fearful person. I'm afraid to do things. I don't like, my husband takes care of all these details. I'm afraid. But then when I asked her the question, where are you not afraid? There was this beautiful place where the fear, even though the fear would show up, it didn't ignite her into contraction. It was there, and then she acted anyway. So it's just what you're saying, David. It's like, if you recognize that the fear is there, and generally speaking, if people want what they want, the fear doesn't get in the way. If they want it enough, that's the only point. I always say in my book, Self-Empowerment 101, it's like, you just have to want it enough to take those incremental steps to say, okay, this is scary, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's important. David said, fear of jumping into a swimming pool. Okay, start by walking down the steps at the shallow end, then to start, and then work up to jumping in the deep end. That's right. That's right. It's the incrementalness of being present to and respecting and honoring where you're at. And so with Meredith, I said, so I'm not asking you to go walk in the woods by yourself in the night. All I'm saying is look at what's the evidence of how courageous you are and how you're building that courage to inevitably step into the deeper ends of those scary places. And she got it. She got it. In a sense, like when we focus on, oh, I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of this, you can feel your body. I could feel after my session with Meredith, always my angst level is about here because she's so full of the angst that it just kind of gets all over the place. But it was easier this time than others because when I ask her, where is that calm, courageous person, she's very clear. And so we spoke more about this place and where it's easier for her. Like, what is that trigger in a sense of what I was getting to, David, is like that fear can trigger us into withdrawal, or we can say, okay, stop. I'm not going to act from fear because I have all this evidence of success. I have all of this evidence that I didn't die. Stepping into the shallow end, I didn't die. I didn't die. I didn't die. And so we build the evidence, but we also have to be aware of and watch and be observing that evidence and keep that in our mind, as opposed to, yes, I have all this evidence, but there are people that have jumped into the deep end and have drowned. It's like, yep. Okay. Whichever one you want to go with is the one you want to go with. But it's really a matter of training ourselves to see, look at this evidence, this body of evidence that says how extraordinarily courageous you are. Yeah, but there are women that get raped. There are women that get, and their whole story just keeps falling out. It's like, I know, it's a dilemma. It's a dilemma. So we're talking about what's dangerous, but in a sense, what's dangerous here is the idea that we could have an intuitive workday and have it be fulfilling, have it be fun, have it be productive, have it be creative, have it be what you want it to be. That's scary. That's why it's now getting talked about more and more. But generally speaking, intuitive workday isn't going to happen. It isn't going to get me. People will say it's not. I'm not going to get done what I need to get done. It's like, how do you know that? Well, because it's like I procrastinate or I this is it, and it's like, yeah, and we got to talk about that. This is what I want, and it's like, again, you can have the kind of day you want, and the first thing to do is to look at how am I making decisions by myself? And if I say I make no decisions by myself, then any choice that I make, I check in and go, is that true? And then I have to answer, well, I don't know. I know that procrastination is coming up because I'm afraid. Or yeah, I'm just afraid. Procrastination is basically founded in fear. It's like, okay. And if that's true, then what kind of day do you want to have? And are you willing to want that enough that you're willing to do something different? So those are the kinds of things that show up, those kinds of questions. Marge says, David, you're absolutely right. Often I can get past the fears by starting a project. Yeah. Yeah. It's the incremental start. That's all we need to do is the incremental start. It's like, can you start? I bought some, I love these echinacea plants and the ones I bought today, I just couldn't resist. They were brilliant yellows and stuff like that. It's like the whole conversation was like, yeah, but now if I buy them, I gotta plant them. And if I buy them, I gotta find a place to plant them. And I gotta get the dirt out and and all of this, oh my God, this is gonna be so hard. I got 3 plants, right? But if I didn't buy the plants, I would have missed out on that part of the joy of having these beautiful plants in my life. And what I do with them, I don't know. But all that fear just flooded in. It's like, oh, now I got to do something about it. It's like, well, don't buy them. Like, yeah, but the joy is great. I love the joy. So I stepped into that intuitive spontaneity, and now I'll create a spot for them somehow. However that unfolds is how it unfolds. Who knows? David says, why is learning to walk not fearful for young children? They fall all the time, but keep trying. Then eventually they have not thought in walking. They don't have to think about it. The desire, I think, this is the desire, the inspiration, the calling is stronger than the fear. And there are children that are fearful of walking and are slower to get started. But the sense of accomplishment, this is the other piece that's so important for me, is when we're walking somebody else's path, and it's like, well, they said it's the thing to do, and you do it, you feel some sense of accomplishment. But when you're walking your path, when you're walking in your timing, when you're walking what's yours to walk, there's a hugely different level of accountability and respect. And it's that song, I did it my way. And so many of us are afraid that we're going to fail, that we don't even begin this process of, I want to know if I can walk. I want to know the experience of that. And so you begin by not even crawling as little children. They're like on their tummies and they're kind of moving back and forth. And then all of a sudden they're up on their little things. Hang on a second. I think I got to sign something. Hello.
Hey, you can light everything.
Yeah, I think I can. Did you find it?
No. And I sprayed it and everything.
Maybe it was some exhausted thing, but it smells like the book.
Yeah, it could have been anything.
All right. Well, I'm glad I got it. I feel safer anyway.
That's good.
All right.
That's
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. So babies that are on their tummies and then they have the strength to go on their knees and their hands and start crawling and then pulling them, they're developing this ability. They're developing the muscles and the neural pathways, and things are beginning to make sense. It's the same way for us in this kind of development of our relationship with our intuitive self. We've been so, again, domesticated. We've been so depleted in our sense of self-trust and self-respect that we got to start at the beginning and learn how to crawl all over again and go, how do I know an inspiring thought from something else? And I had to sit on the couch for hours and waiting, wait until I got it. I know that's a fear thought. That's a guilt thought. That's a shame thought. All these thoughts I could say. And then this feeling came up and it was like, that's inspiration. That's what I'm looking for. And so it's building this whole new relationship with this neural pathway, if you want to talk about it that way. But it's an energetic, vibrational frequency thing that we can tune into more and more and more, and create a reality that's very different than the one that we've been creating. When I wrote my first book, which was like about, let's see, about 15 years ago, I'll say, SelfEmpowerment 101. And I was writing the book. I was called to write the book. I wanted to write it as part of the training that I was providing in coaching training. And I would sit there and I would like, I want to write. I just felt that. At the same time, I felt this, this vision of these people in front of me pointing their fingers saying, who are you to do this? You can't, who are you to make a book? Who are you to write a book? Like, you're a nothing. You're nobody. And these are the words that were part of my family's upbringing. Who are you? You're just a smarty pants. You don't have a right to write a book. And I had to look at all of that, and I had to keep dismissing it, like, just like, do this while I'm inspired to write. And so I was able to write that book in 4 months, which is amazing. And I made a commitment with the person that I would do that. But at the same time, I was constantly bombarded with this message of who are you to think you can do this, or that you should do this, or that you're smart enough that you could write a book. So quite often we have this bombardment from friends and family, or the people that are the closest to us, that say, you can't do that. Who are you? Right? Who are you to do that? And in fact, who am I not to do it? Who am I not to be the one that's doing this video with you? Who am I not to do that? And and I feel that a lot, though, even in beginning these videos. I think we began them in February or January, and it was like, oh my God, it was exhausting, because I was following my calling and following the intuition that this is what was mine to do. And at the same time, because I was moving through such intense constriction and barriers of truth, that it was exhausting. For like each week was an exhausting week, and then I'd show up the next one. But now it's not so exhausting, because I've broken through the majority of that, basically all those messages that says, who are you to walk, and who are you to run, and who are you to fly, who are you to soar. And when we listen to those messages again, who are you to soar, it's like, how is that useful? How is that useful to you? And so we have to start questioning, that's not useful to listen to that. So by not listening to that, I've written probably 300 or 400 blogs. I've done probably 300 videos. I've written 13 books. And I'm not saying it was easy, because each one brings me up against my comfort zone to say, who are you? Or oh, here's another opportunity to fail. That's the first thought that comes up when I get a new idea. Oh, here's another opportunity to fail. And it's like, wow, what was I taught? What was I trained as a human being that's the first thought when I have an inspiration? Oh, here's another opportunity to fail, right? I don't know about you, but that's not that's not good parenting to have your child in her late 60s go, oh, here's another opportunity to fail. And that's what we're living with. And it's not just my parents or this lifetime. It's lifetime upon lifetime upon lifetime of criticisms and of judgments and betrayals and abandonments and all kinds of stuff that creates that, oh, here's another opportunity to fail. So what I want from these videos, from these times with you, is to help you go, yeah, I have those thoughts, but I really, I have this desire, this inspiration to fulfill this vision I have, and I want to do that. It's like, okay, great. I totally support that happening. Not just the possibility of that happening, but that happening. A friend of mine, I call him Michael. Michael is 60 years old, and he's an incredible musician. And I may have told this story before. And when he was 13, he said to his dad he wanted to be a professional singer. And his dad said, "Your voice isn't good enough for that." And so guess what? Michael never sang, but he became an incredible guitarist. But he was doing some coaching with me because he wanted to sing. And unfortunately, at that point, I think I've heard him sing twice since then. But his father telling him, "You're not good enough," really shut him down, as opposed to his dad saying, "Wow, you can do anything. Go for it." So that's the dilemma that we face, every single one of us, to whatever degree we face it. Tracy Goss wrote a book. Tracy Goss, Goss, and I'm having a moment of not remembering what the book was about. But a lot of what she talked about is, here's what people say is impossible. And if you look at all the inventions, including that you and I are talking here in this thing, this is an extraordinary, miraculous thing that is absolutely impossible. I don't know how it happens, but somebody said it's possible. And so here we are in this world, being able to connect across continents, right? Impossible. And someone said, there's a possibility here, and I'm going to follow that possibility. And they did. And so the extraordinary, becomes ordinary. This is ordinary to 2-3 generations later, and going, wow, this is no big deal. And they're continuing to expand and grow what is absolutely impossible. In my mind, flying is impossible. Every time I go up in a plane, it's like, oh my God, I have no idea how this happens. Even though you can explain the aerodynamics and all of that kind of stuff, it feels like it's impossibility. So when people come to me and they want something, and they go, it's impossible, it's like, nothing is impossible. Literally, nothing is impossible. But how do we shift that orientation from, you got to toe the line, you've got to do what other people are telling you to do, versus, wait, I've got an idea, and I gotta follow that idea. And certainly following that idea with some consistency is a good thing, and following that idea, but knowing what that consistency is for you, this is what's important. I'm not going to tell you, like a lot of times people will come and they say, I have a really hard time with time management. It's a terrible, horrible thing. I can't do it. Well, the fundamental truth is they can't do it because what they want of that time management isn't in alignment with their highest truth, their highest knowing, their highest contribution. And they're trying to use this in a way that doesn't work for them. And so 99 times out of 100, when people have come in and said, I want to work on time management, we end up getting very clear that it's not about time management. It's about something else. I was just about to say I have a terrible time with time management. I was just about to tell you that. And every once in a while, I buy what's called a planner pad. Let's see if I can pull this out. And I think this planner pad is just the best in the world for organizing. It makes perfect sense to me. I buy them, like I said, every couple of years. It's like, okay, I'm going to do some time management organization stuff. Doesn't work for me. it doesn't work for me. And I get to honor that about myself, that those kinds of tools that can work for somebody else doesn't work for me. I need a much more fluid thing like, okay, here's an envelope and here's the notes for the day on the envelope. That's my time management thing. Aside from the fact that with my clients, I have schedules, so that works. And any other appointments I have, they're all scheduled on the schedule. But anything in terms of here's where I'm going to write or here's where I'm going to do something else, that doesn't go on the schedule because I never follow it. So there's things that are structured, but I know this. I know, again, what kind of day do I want? What kind of quality of life do I want? And so part of that is here I want 5 to 10 clients a week. That's it. If there's more, I get too busy and I'm not happy. And so it's like 5 to 10 clients, that's what I do. And so it becomes an intuitive thing and a knowing versus here's how much money I need to make. Here's how I'm going to make that money. You know, I need to sell 14 books every day, and here's what I'm going to do to make that happen. It doesn't work for me that way. If it works for you, that's good to know. But if it doesn't work, what works? And how can you experiment with listening to your intuition, listen to your own divine timing and what needs to happen? A long time ago, this is now going on 10 years, I would never meditate or anything like that, or had made time for contemplation. But when I went through this sort of dark night of the soul kind of thing, I would get up every morning, I would make my coffee and sit down and for an hour, basically be reading Oneness and or Course in Miracles or something, and be immersed in that. Now here, I said I couldn't do it and wouldn't do it. And now it's such an important part of my day, where before it was like, I don't have time to do that. And now it's critical to the quality of my life that I make the time to do that. And I don't even have to make the time because it's so intuitive to me that to bring that quality of life to my day. David said, I found the to-do list that can cross off is good for me. Yeah. I also use the computer calendar week and day view. Okay. If you don't get something done, I forward it onto the new to-do list. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of do that too. And I've had people say that doesn't work because then their to-do list gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And at some point, at some point, it's like those things that aren't getting done, maybe they're just not that important. And it's really good to know that those things are just not that important. The things that are getting done, the intentions behind that getting them done is really, really important to you. So you get them done. But sometimes people get, oh my God, here's from 6 months ago, I still haven't. It's like, okay, that's just not that important yet. And so if you can allow yourself that flexibility to say, that's just not that important. So I'm going to just not only put it at the bottom of the list, I'm going to take it off the list so that, because I don't want that pressure. I don't want to think, oh, I'm a really bad person. And, you know, I say that not as an exaggeration, but so many people, we beat ourselves up so deeply if we fail to accomplish something or go, oh, I've had that list on my list for 14 weeks. I'm a bad person. It's like, well, what have you accomplished? What did you get done? Whose life did you touch? How did you make your own life happy? How did you bring about your sense of self through today? How did you respect and trust yourself today? As opposed to always looking at where we failed. Like I said, when I get ideas for new books, it's like, oh, here's another opportunity to fail. Now, how many times have I failed to finish a book? Not that much. My books pretty much get done. And if they don't, they become part of something else. And there's things that I've wanted to write, but they haven't found their way into the world yet. This is that intuitiveness to say, you know, this book, I've been wanting to write a spiritual intelligence, and it's the title that I want, you know, and it's like it doesn't want to get written, and I have to respect and honor that there are these beings, these energies. They don't want to come in the world the way that I want them to come into the world. So we begin to have a relationship with the world and the universe and these thoughts and these feelings and these energies in a way that's different than trying to control and constrain and constrict, which is so much of what the work pattern is for so many of us. So this whole um, conversation today is to support and empower you to say, can I have a different conversation with myself about work? Can I find a way to actually enjoy my life and what I'm doing? David says, I do remember putting uncomfortable things off, but each week it keeps looking at me. Yep. Yep. I've got some uncomfortable things and they'll get done. They'll get done or they won't. That's all. It's just a matter of, am I going to beat myself up about it? Or am I going to allow it just to say, okay, I'll get to it. I will get to it or I won't. And it's not a bad thing if I don't get to it. It just isn't something that's going to get done. And this is how we begin to go, okay, how am I choosing what's a priority for me? How do I choose what's of value to me to do during the day? One of the things I wanted to mention in this time in terms of how do we create an intuitive workday is to get clearer with our vision of the world that we want to create. So in a sense, in so many businesses or personally, it's like, what's your vision statement? And people go, it's too big. It's too, It's like vision statements are so crucial to how you are living your life. You're actually already living a vision. And that vision might be, I'm a poor, pathetic lout that can't accomplish anything. That's the vision that you have of yourself. Guess what? That's the vision that you're creating of yourself. And if we look at what's the greatest vision that we have for ourselves, what is the vision that and mostly this comes with businesses. I want to have a business that does this. And it's like, what's the vision? So I'm going to make these widgets. And what's the intention of making those widgets? To make the world a better place. Okay, great. What's your vision of that world that you're creating because of your widgets? What's the world like? And it's like, that takes us to this quality of being that we are imagining and envisioning of the world because we're making this widget or because of this service that we're providing. And when we get clear about what that vision is, that becomes the trajectory of our life and our lifestyle. So I've done this many times, had different vision statements, but the one that made most sense was my vision of the world was the vision of the fulfillment of the human spirit through the empowerment of every individual on the planet, the fulfillment of the human spirit. So my vision was that the human spirit of every individual was fulfilled through the empowerment of them. By empowering people to empower themselves, they came to this place of fulfillment of their human spirit. So when I got that for myself, then not only is that a vision for what I want to bring in the world, but it's what I bring to myself as well. And so the more I'm really good, and I love helping people with their vision statements, might do a YouTube thing on that or a workshop or something. But creating that vision statement for yourself takes you to a different level of value of your own knowing, your own respecting what's yours to do in the world. And then you have greater trajectory towards that. Or you can stay with, I'm just a pathetic loser and I'm going to fail again. I could do that. I could have done that, but I had committed to a friend who wrote a book in 3 months. I said, I'm going to write a book in 4 months. And so that's what I did because of that commitment. And it was the start, and it broke those patterns of always seeing myself as less than, or, too big for my britches, or whatever those things that people used to say. And I began to really tune in and trust my own intuition, tune in and trust my own relationship with my higher knowing. And more with these live videos, I do that. Where before I would work at, creating outlines for days, I now go, I know this stuff. I know it on the inside out. And if I can come across and articulate it in a way that works for you, that's all I want to do, is be able to share it with you in a way that maybe inspires you or empowers you to really listen to yourself and all of the extraordinariness that you're bringing into the world, because you are. There's no doubt in my mind about that. David says, mission, vision, and values. That takes me back to the office. Yes, sir. Yeah. But it's also so important in terms of, if we have a vision of how we want to be as a friend, or as David, as you're here in these YouTube lives, and you're respectful, and your alignment, and your sense of heart. Like, there's a vision of the quality of being that shows up when you do, because the vision of you is more and bigger than just some guy who's saying a bunch of stuff. Your sense of vision of the world, your sense of vision of who you are as a participant on this planet, I'm just saying, this is my perspective, is bigger than what we do at the office, or how we should at the office. That vision statement, and my daughter has reminded me of that many times, to say, Mom, you're not living your vision. You're saying this for other people, but you're not living it yet. It's like, okay, all right, I'm paying attention. So when we have a vision, we want to live into that, not just for other people, but for ourselves too. But because this month has been about work-life harmony and balance, then it's really good to see, well, what is it? How do I envision myself in the world? Do I envision myself as somebody who's contributing, or do I see myself as somebody who's not contributing, who's just a taker, or trying to get my piece, get my share? And how do I envision myself? How do I want to see myself in the world? And I believe 99% of the time, people have in their heart this desire to contribute to the world in a good way. How it shows up is another thing, but I believe everyone has. If when I do a vision exercise with people, 99 times out of 100, it's not about, I'm going to make the world a worse place than it is right now. Never, never have I got that one. David says, the higher statements helps define one's values. I use these statements on my resume. Yes. And do you live those values, David? That's the question. These higher statements help define your values. And do you walk your talk? That's what I want to know, David. Do you walk your talk? And that's a hard one. I am constantly, because this is my work, to practice what I preach, if you will, then I'm constantly having to be mindful of, okay, if I'm not happy today, or if I'm having a moment of angst or frustration, then I want to look and see what the source of that is. How am I not living in my values? Or how have I missed something that I need to pay attention to? So I ask myself those questions. Like, if, again, going back to the couch, if I'm acting from fear and anger and bitterness, that's not going to give me the quality of relationship that I am wanting to have with my clients and my friends and my children. It's just not. So I have to be a choice, and it's a dilemma sometimes, but that's what we have to do. David says, okay, thanks, David. When I asked about, does he live by his values, David says, not always, but I try. There's always room for improvement. No one is perfect. That's right. It's not about perfection for me. It's about the willingness to look at, oh yeah, that's where it's hard, or that's where it's scary, or that's where I'm stuck. I'm in a dilemma with my daughter. This is all inside me. She doesn't know any of this, but I'm in this dilemma with myself, and it's such a struggle, but I have to look at my values, and the number one value is love. And is what I'm experiencing and struggling with about love or something else? And so I'm struggling with this because I want what I want, and it may not be what she wants. It may not be what she wants to give. It may not be that she has it to give. And so these are elements of life that we're struggling with. And to say, oh, let's just follow our intuition on this one, it can take us into these very adventurous places. It doesn't necessarily take us into, oh, I'll just follow my intuition and it'll take me to my happy place. It's like it takes us into some really deep questioning, not bad, not hard, not scary. It's all that scary and hard, but it's that place of what's the truth here? David says realistic goals always not to jump too far ahead or lie, and then there's dot dot dot. David, so the realistic goals is important, and even moving back into what's incrementally, what's here now, what's true here now, what's this, and these incremental moments of truth here, in this moment, am I living in my value? In this moment, can I catch that part that wants to go into hiding? Can I catch this moment now? And when we can catch them, that's the moment that we have an opportunity to do something different or think differently, or ignore that thought that keeps me struggling with self appreciation or self respect. These are thoughts that are constantly inundating us, constantly, boom, boom, boom. And we have to be able to be more and more conscious or mindful of those thoughts, those negative thoughts that are constantly coming at us. It's like, again, the statistic that 80% of our thoughts are negative in nature. And if we're taking that in, there's 20% is all that's available to us to be happy, or to be close to happy, or to be self-appreciative, or acknowledge, or trust, or respect ourselves. How many of our moments of our life are we embracing our self-respect and our self-trust? And wow, you're pretty cool. As opposed to, oh, I'm not enough and I have to figure out how to say it differently on my resume so I look good. As opposed to going, no, I am good. David, you're good. And if you're good, then how do you express that in a way that is the expression of you on the resume or wherever, just being in life? So we have just a couple of more minutes left. I'm thank you, David, for participating in this chat, and for those of you who are here. And please feel free to subscribe to my channel. Leave comments below if there are things that you'd like me to answer for you, or that you have these challenges of, I want to listen to my intuition, but and then fill in the blank. Or I always listen to my intuition and this is what happens. Because sometimes we listen to our intuition and it gets us into challenging situations. Not wrong, not bad, just challenges. Because this life is about adventuring and learning who we are under any circumstance. And so, in this particular video, this particular live, I'm really wanting you to question, how much am I really honoring my intuition, my knowing, my callings in life? And how can I do that even more so? And if nothing else, you can just do that, just question. But I have some books, I have some videos, as you know. Self-Empowerment 101 is a great book. It's on Amazon to check out, just to look at and say, because there's a whole bunch of questions in there that you can answer about yourself and how you be with yourself. And it's just really, really a great opportunity to get to know yourself. I don't know which guy said it, but they said the unexamined life isn't worth living, or something like that. So I'm all about getting to know myself, and I'm all about empowering you to get to know who you are so you can have just an awesome life, an extraordinary life. David says, being real is being honest with self. Present yourself to others as you are. People appreciate that. Absolutely. Absolutely. The more that I'm me, I'm pretty transparent. People are like, "Wow, how can you do that?" It's like, well, what's the point of lying? What's the point of not being me? What's the point? You're either going to like me or you're not. It's taken me a long time to get to that point because I used to lie and present as something else, or try to anyway. But it's like, this is as good as it gets for me. This is pretty good for me. I'm pretty happy with who I am. I'm happy, and really am beginning to appreciate the life that I've lived. And I look forward to you becoming more conscious about you living the life that you want to live, like truly living the life you want to live, not just thinking about it or imagining it. That's a good start. As we were talking about, that's the first step into the deep end of really making it happen. So next week, next Thursday, I'm going to be horseback riding on a 6-day adventure into the wilderness. So that's an adventure in itself, and I have no idea how it's going to go. I'm sure it's going to be awesome in so many ways, and I'll share that with you when I get back on the following Thursday. All right, so have a great time. Thank you guys for being here with me, and again, David, thank you for your comments. It's been great chatting with you, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys again. All right, bye for now.